Hey everybody, this is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And I'm having my weekly bout of losing my voice.
It's true, Victoria loses her voice a lot, which makes it difficult to make a podcast sometimes. And you're watching episode 88? Oops, that was the wrong sticky note. 88? Yes, 88. That's what
Wow.
happens when we pre-record episodes. I don't know what's going on. Episode 88 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. What are we talking about today, Victoria?
We were talking about No Cause for Concern and the case of the ball cap hero.
Yes, this is our middle review for album 60, Head Over Heels. Last time we talked about the first two episodes. Now we get the middle two, and next time it is already going to be the finale because, man, time flies fast when there's only 6 episodes in an album.
Hey, Devin.
Yeah.
Devin.
What?
No cause for concern. No, the episode.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Man,
That episode.
can't believe it. Which you guys presumably have already heard it, and we're going to get talking to it in just a second. There is one piece of news we have to talk about, which is quite sad. As you probably all remember, just basically, I think a month ago today, as of this recording, Alan Young passed away, the voice of Jack Allen, which was very sad. And now, only a few days ago, on June 12th, Janet Waldo passed away, who's the voice of Joanne Woodston Allen and also Maureen Hodges. She was also the age of 96, the same as Alan Young. And so she has also passed away now, and we will probably be, since there are no Wits past episodes that have Joanne in them, we'll probably do a special review so that we can do some episodes with Joanne, which will probably also include Jack then, and provide a little more tribute for him as well. So that'll probably be coming up fairly soon once we get, our album 60 stuff out of the way. Until then, we'll turn you over right now to our review of No Cause for Concern and the case of the ball cap hero. And here we are now looking at episode 785, No Cause for Concern, written by Nathan Hubler. What happens in this episode, Victoria?
I totally called this episode. I called everything that happened.
I can't believe it, honestly.
I was so accurate, though, wasn't I?
I thought you were joking, and I was like, oh yeah, haha, this would never happen, but it'd be hilarious and amazing if it did. But there's no way that would happen.
Everything I called happened. I'm so on point with this album so far.
Tell us about this episode, Victoria.
I get like 6 points for this album, basically. So in this album, there's all these, so Penny is noticing that all these people keep on like looking up stuff about her and like digging into her personal life.
Well, not all these people, the same unknown person.
Yeah, this one person. And then when she finally finds out what this person looks like, he matches the same description of what Wooten looks like. So then she like starts to be suspicious that Wooten's doing these things. So she tells him like he can just ask her, and then it just keeps on continuing. They find out it was actually Wellington, and I totally called that. I totally called that this would happen. So Wellington does not approve of Wooten and Penny being together, obviously. And so he's trying to find out stuff about Penny and seeing if she's a good match for Wooten. And he deems that she is not. So then he tries to break them up, basically. And then Wooten says no, and then Wellington gets invited to their wedding. So.
And then Wellington gets really emotional.
I know! Oh my gosh!
Oh, okay,
so I listened to this album. I listened to this episode, and then I re-listened to the other 3 Wellington episodes, and then I re-listened to this one again.
Yeah, the other 3 episodes Wellington has been in before.
Which
what do you mean?
Are For the Fun of It, Bassett Hounds, and Nothing But the Half Truth.
Correct.
So if you guys want to listen to the Wellington playlist, there's those 3, and now this one.
Yeah. I have the Wellington playlist. It's in my playlist folders under Adventures in Odyssey, and then Episodes With, and then Recurring Characters, and then W, and then Wellington Bassett.
You're way too organized with that.
Thank you. Alright, so right off the bat, when they started going, I'm like, okay, I guess this is going to be the Wooten is a notorious felon episode.
Yeah.
Now,
I still thought it was going to be the Jana one, but it started with like Penny talking, and I was like, oh, Devin was right.
In our predictions episode, Of course, Victoria she was like, it would be so funny if the reason that there was evidence against Wooten is if Wellington did something wrong, and then they thought it was Wooten because they're twins.
I can't believe I was right.
I can't believe you're right. Here's what I was.
I said Wellington impersonating Wooten and then doing things.
In my mind, that was like the best top tier possibility, but also the least likely. What I think, was the most likely would be that it would be something like all the trust issue things from the album before, where it would be like Wooten's being weird or something, and Penny's like, oh no, he must be doing something wrong. I don't trust that he's doing something bad. And then it turns out it was all, he was doing something for some romantic surprise, and she's like, oh, I should have trusted him all along. And
this is so much better than that, because that would have just been repetitive and predictable.
It would have been repetitive, and it's funny because that's what the initial thing was happening, right? Like, that's what Penny thought first. She's like, oh, it seems suspicious, but maybe it's just, it seems that way because Wooten's actually doing something romantic for me and trying to figure things out for a gift. So
as soon as we were given the description, it's like some guy came in here and she's like, what did he look like? Did he have like red hair and like brown eyes and stuff? And they're like, yeah, he did. And I just like freaked out because I was just like, oh my gosh, it is Wellington. And I got so excited.
Yeah,
Did you know it was Wellington at that point?
So I'll go through it. So, first off, they said no cause for concern, and I was like, oh.
And I was like, they said it.
Roll credits. So it was rather mysterious, because first this mystery person was looking up Penny's criminal record, but they didn't know who it was. Polhouse told her, but it was another officer who took it and didn't know who it was. Apparently they don't have security footage. Or I guess he just said he wasn't allowed to say who it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Because of confidentiality. But so I'm like, this is kind of mysterious, because they started talking about like Dr. Trask and the Green Ring conspiracy, and I was
hold
like,
that thought. It's really dark in here. I'm gonna make it brighter. Keep on talking.
They started talking about like Dr. Trask and the Green Ring conspiracy, and so I started to wonder, like, is this gonna be some kind of epilogue thing tying into the Green Ring conspiracy? Like, at that point, I was like, it seems kind of up in the air at that point from the first get-go, whether or not the person who requested the criminal files was, like, someone that we know already or not. And I was like, is it Wooten?
And they said, like, Charles, did Mr. Trask break out from prison? I'm like, it's Bennett Charles all over again.
Where do they go tomorrow?
And then Penny's gonna be like, Wooten, I can't marry you. And Wooten's like, I'm gonna go marry Maureen.
Yeah. I'm gonna go move to Budapest. So, what was I saying? Yeah, so, I mean, I was like, is it Wooten? Because it seems like they would have known if it was Wooten, and they would say, but I guess it could be, because that would line up with the album description. And then the lady at the library, like, described Wooten to a T, including, like, the curly hair and the male cap and everything. And I was like, it is Wooten. Why is he doing this? It's so mysterious. And then, because honestly, I didn't believe there's any real possibility that Wellington would actually show up, so I wasn't even entertaining the idea. And then it suddenly, I can't remember at what point it occurred to me suddenly, I was like, it is Wellington. When I realized that they just used the physical descriptions, it's just like, why would he do that based on that description? It has to be Wooten. And I was like, and I realized it was just like The Return with Blackguard.
And you realized I was right, and you're like, gosh darn it.
Yeah, so they go back to Hal's Diner again, of course.
Yeah, there is no wits, and I was talking to Devin earlier, I realized that people who are new to Odyssey are not going to know what Wits End is, basically, at this point. Hal's Diner has been more prominent than Wits End by far for, like, the last 5 albums.
Yeah, no wonder they made Welcome to Wits End. Like, this is the only way to let you people know about Wits End, because you're never going to hear about it in the show anymore. So, they go to Hal's Diner. We learn a couple more fun facts about Penny, like her favorite shade of yellow is saffron. Her middle name has a silent K. I really hope that Penny's middle name actually is, like, just the letter K, but it's silent. So when you read her name, it's just Pennywise. Because there's just a silent K in the middle. It's like Penny K Wise, but the K silent, so it's just Pennywise.
You've got it, Devin. You've unlocked the mystery.
And her shoe size is 5.5, 6 if it's going to rain, depending on salt consumption and sock choice.
Same.
So I would have been so confused, honestly, by this episode if you hadn't made that wild prediction that Wellington would be
I
in this
can't
episode.
believe I was right.
If you hadn't guessed that, I never would have thought of that, and I would have been it would have taken me a long time to figure it out. It wouldn't have been until they're like, unless it's someone who looks and sounds exactly like you, because that was almost exactly the same line that they did at Gentry's printers in The Return. And then I would have been like, oh, it's Dr. Blackguard is looking up Penny.
What? So at the beginning, when they're like, someone's digging through your personal records, I was confused. I was thinking, like, maybe it's like some random person. Maybe it's Wooten's dad. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I thought it was Wooten's dad. But then when they said, like, they described Wooten, which was, like, in the next scene, I was like, oh my gosh, it is Wellington! Because I woke up this morning and Devin's just like, listen to the episode. And I was like, but I'm tired. I want to do my homework. And then you're like, listen to the episode. And I was like, okay. And then I did. And I was like, I was right. Oh my gosh. I called it.
And
I called it.
I was surprised
I just kept on sending Devin the same message. I called it.
I was surprised that Wellington was, like, deliberately trying. At first I was confused because I was like, surely, based on the physical description that she gave of Wooten, I was like, surely Wellington couldn't, like, you know, he wouldn't leave his hair, like, all curly and the same length as Wooten's and stuff, because that would be, like, look really weird as a high-ranking businessman that he is.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
I bet straightens his hair.
Sorry?
I bet straightens his hair.
Probably. Or just has it cut short. But evidently, like, he made his hair look like Wooten's and wore, like, the same clothes and stuff. So he was very that was sneaky, like, that I need Penny sent me over for employment history for a wedding certificate.
So I'm going to reference all these episodes I listened to sandwiched between re-listening to this. So one of them was Words from the Wise. I listened to that one again. It was really good on the listen through. And Wooten got highlights in that episode. So Wooten, like, Penny's mom must not be a very good, like, hair salon if the highlights came out that quickly, because
we don't know. They could still be in there.
Yeah, but you would think that they would comment on them.
Who would, though?
Like, I don't know, like, everyone's like, they look completely identical, but they wouldn't have mistaken, like, at the library when the lady saw Wooten and she's just like, you were just there, I was just talking to you, and, like, he has, like, clear blonde highlights in his red hair.
That's true, unless possibly...
I think that the highlights were temporary and they came out.
Or, before Wellington started asking around, he, like, snuck around and checked on what Wooten looks like right now to make sure that he could...
I don't think even Wellington would go that
far. To make sure that he could accurately pose as his brother, and so Wellington went and
Wellington is the biggest nerd ever. He's such a dork. Like, re-listening to the episodes, I didn't realize how much of a dork he is until I re-listened to everything.
He was so sweet in this episode.
He's such a dork. I love him so much. And, so, like, what I'm hoping happened is, they said he had a male cap on, but I'm hoping, like...
Well, she said a blue cap, but I'm assuming... What? She said a blue cap, I'm assuming she meant the male cap.
Yeah,
the moose
but, like, imagine just, like, Wooten casual, like, he has separate Wooten outfits. He was talking to Talia before, he's like, so, Talia, when you and your uncle were gallivanting around Odyssey that time ago, what did he dress like? And she's like, oh, we went to get some Hawaiian shirts. And he's like, fabulous. And he just goes down and
you'll have to
he's like, can you break a 100? I would like to buy a $2 Hawaiian shirt, please.
Yeah, you'll have to do the chicken dance everywhere you go also.
I was killing myself laughing when I listened to the chicken dance.
Do you think that Talia knew that he was going to go pose as Wooten? Do you think she, like, gave him Wooten impersonator coaching?
I hope so. I hope he tried to be discreet about it, but it's Wellington, so she just, like, figured out. She's like, Father, I know what you're doing. And so then she was just like, oh, this is going to be the best day of my life. And then she just, like, dressed him up like Wooten.
I hope Talia...
And she's like, I can do your hair in cornrows if you want. And he's like, no, thank you, Talia.
I hope that she took the next plane to Odyssey after him and she, like, followed him around all this time just to, like, watch him go through all these ordeals. So yeah, as we were going through this, I was like, I'm trying to imagine what this episode would have been like if you hadn't guessed that Wellington was going to be in it. And I also didn't know certain spoilers about the future.
So is that Wellington that's going to show up in the future?
Maybe.
That's a yes.
and I would be like, if you hadn't guessed that and stuff like that,
this would have been like the biggest plot twist ever if I hadn't guessed it.
The idea of Wellington would have crossed my mind with the clues, especially after what Jacques said. But
I don't think I would have guessed Wellington if I didn't the other day.
But like the idea would cross into my mind, but I wouldn't believe it could actually be true that they would bring back someone from Wooten's family like that from so long ago.
Also, they got the same voice actor.
Yes, they did.
I was so happy about that. There was one scene, like, when they first started talking to each other one-on-one, where he said a couple words, and they sounded a little strange. It kind of sounded like he had a country accent for a couple words, and I was like, what? And then he went back into his normal voice.
I like all of, like, the big, old character returns that we've had. Usually it's, like, all the odd-numbered albums, basically. Like, in 50, since the second hiatus, because in 53, Monty came back, and then in 55... is when Mitch came back, and then 56 is when Jason came back, 57 Jeff came back, and now here in 60 we have Wellington comes back.
And he's gonna appear again in the future. I'm so excited. But Devin, remember Wellington's past impersonation of Wooten and he's just like, oh, everything's ding-dongedly dandy. It's all lollipops and gumdrops over here. So just imagine him like
doing that
an
all
entire
day.
week, just walking around talking like that. And what really got me is he must have been trying way harder to impersonate Wooten this time because he realized how badly he did last time with whatever his name was. And so, because Jacques-Henri said that he had a American accent, and I'm like, he speaks kind of with a British accent, so.
Well, yeah, but he's probably putting on an accent, trying to sound like Wooten.
He talked like that even when he was impersonating Wooten. Impersonating him.
What Victoria is alluding to about future appearances is, I guess we can say it now, on the Facebook page for Adventures in Odyssey, they put up a picture of some of the actors, I assume there were more, but at least some of the actors who are going to appear in Very Bassett Wedding, parts 1 and 2. And the actors in there were Whit, Wooten, Penny, Connie, Wellington, and Frank and Eleanor Wise.
Yes! I'm so excited. I want to meet Wellington's wife. I want Talia to come back.
Yeah.
I want mention of Talia, at least.
Yes. I mean, if Wellington's coming to the wedding, like, surely Talia would have to come.
Yeah. She better own her own horse by now. Like, yeah.
So, So, yeah, when they finally had the scene in the library, and he's like, I didn't talk to you before. She's like, well, if you didn't, it'd have to be someone who looked and sounded exactly like you. And he's like, me? I'll have you know, madam, that there is no one who looks just like me. Wooten Bassett is one of a kind. Wooten Bassett is an original. Wooten Bassett is, and the Penny's like a twin. Speaking of which, I did absolutely call that Penny had no idea that Wooten was an identical twin.
I asked you about that, though. I was like, do you think she knows? And I was like, I don't know. And
I was like, I don't think
I thought we both agreed that she wouldn't know.
Yeah, but I think I was the first one who pointed that out.
Yeah. You have to put up what I sent you earlier. So those of you who have seen The Force Awakens and seen the Saturday Night Live sketch with Matt the radar technician
that turned
which
into a
is
meme.
the greatest thing ever. I sent Devin this earlier. Devin put it on the screen.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, because that line became a meme for all shows that involve a character with a secret identity talking themselves up. And
that's because it's perfect.
It is.
My friend saw Wellington take his shirt off in the shower. He said he had an 8-pack. He said he was shredded. And then I just imagined Penny being like, are you kidding me? Wellington looks like he weighs like 30 pounds in that skinny, like, tuxedo or whatever he wears.
So yeah, I was kind of unsure if Wellington was actually going to appear in the episode. Even once I figured out it was him, I was like, is he actually going to, like, show up? And then he was there in the library. I felt it was odd that such a high-class businessman like him wasn't able to stop his phone from ringing. Because surely he would be Mr. like super fast texty talk and technology.
My guess is he didn't think about it.
I even thought, like, about the idea that maybe because he was supposed to be undercover that he got, like, a burner phone, but Wooten was able to call him on his usual
You got like
number
a
immediately.
disposable phone like drug dealers have.
Yeah, but Wooten called him on his, like, the first number that Wooten tried for his usual number. He picked up right away, so evidently
Oh
it
no, it's
wasn't.
even better. Talia doesn't know about this. She thinks he's going through a midlife crisis.
She's, like, calling. Do you think she's, like, talking to her grandpa right now? She's like, Grandpa Winston, I think you need to have a talk with Wellington. Now, guess who's going to be written out of the will? Which is a point that we will get to very importantly shortly. But, yeah, when he showed up, I was like, it's probably adorable that Wellington's doing such a thorough background check on his future sister-in-law. Unless he's making sure that she isn't just trying to marry into their family, like so many others apparently have, for, like, money and position. Except I was like, I mean, that wouldn't make any sense, though, because their grandfather's inheritance has already been divided, and Wooten has already stated that he's been disowned by his father. He's not in Winston's will, so I don't know what he thinks she could gain.
Unless he's in Wellington's
in that
will.
regard. Maybe.
Which, I don't know. I think that, like, he just doesn't want someone to be associated with them who's a gold digger.
I was surprised he called her that.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. I don't know.
Wellington's the older brother, right?
I don't think they've said. I'd presume so, but I don't know. People
I'm
do
pretty
like.
sure he's called him his baby brother before. Like, he's called Wooten that.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, he calls him that in like Nothing But the Half Truth, I think, or something like that.
Yeah. So I was right. I turned out to be right in that guess that Wellington was right, that Penny was a gold digger, and yeah, I was really surprised that they used that phrase.
I don't think. No, they didn't use the phrase gold digger.
That is what he said.
Oh,
That's
he did?
exactly what he called her.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought I was just. Oh.
You listened to the episode 3 times today, Victoria.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, that is what he called her right off the bat.
I can listen to an episode 3 times, and you can listen to it once, and you'll have a better grasp of the episode than I do.
I guess it depends how much you're listening and what you're doing.
No, you just get things better than I do when it comes to taking in different media things.
You're just better at predicting things.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's kind of confusing because he's like, oh, she's obviously after the family fortune. And I was like, how would she get it? You know, Wooten's already been disowned by all of you. What's the concern? He's not getting any of the fortune, so how is she going to? And they're like, she'll
maybe
tarnish.
He's suspicious that their grandpa has been giving Wooten money or something like that.
Maybe. And they're like, she'll tarnish the family name. And I was like, I would think that they would consider Wooten already tarnished enough on his own.
They don't want him to be tarnishing stuff anymore.
That's why
he already has.
Like, that's why Winston disowned him in the first place. Penny.
He made W names.
Penny and Connie do some wedding planning. So that's like, it's like,
the
wow,
music?
it's getting close.
I was laughing so hard
Connie
at like the vampire music that they were playing. I'm like, can this be Wellington's theme from now on?
Connie wants to play the toccata and fugue in D minor for Penny's walk down the aisle. And I was like, hey, Connie, I think I just figured out why Dreams by Constance never took off in a big way. It was like, no one's ever hiring me to plan their weddings. I was like, I think I just figured out why. Oh, yeah.
She's like, I just don't know where I went wrong.
The thing I really want after this episode, like really, really want, is to know what would happen if Wellington met Mrs. Kramer.
Oh my gosh.
Because it could go in so... I don't know if they love each other or hate each other. I feel like
the
it could
world
go...
would explode.
It could go either way.
I feel like they would hate each other.
Wellington could be like, you're so low down, you don't have the right to hate on my brother. He's my brother to rag on, not yours.
I feel like that's
or they could commiserate over Wooten. I don't know. Either way, I think it would be hilarious and amazing, and I want it to happen. I think
that would be pure chaos, and the world would explode as a result.
Do you think she'll come to the wedding, Mrs. Kramer?
No. Maybe
they're like,
eat the food and then leave.
They'll be like, speak now or forever hold your peace, and she'll like...
I could see her coming just to eat the food.
She'll burst in the doors and be like, I object.
Right after.
I have a petition.
How dare Wooten have happiness?
So, we got more mentions of Devin. I was amazed. I didn't think it was going to happen.
We've gotten a lot of mentions of him.
No, this was the first time he's been mentioned since a big commitment.
Like it.
There's only the
I don't
second.
know, maybe I've just thought about the character a lot.
Yeah, this is only the second time he's been mentioned. So we learned that he was rich and has mogul parents, just like Victoria Jameson. In fact,
Devin, we're rich.
I was like, maybe Devin and Victoria are actually siblings, and their parents are in the cereal and steel business.
What? That's such a good combination.
The steelial business.
That is a wonderful name.
Just think about how much iron you would get in your breakfast.
I'm leaving.
And then, in the end, everything gets worked out. It's interesting because the trust went both ways. The first half of the episode was like, Penny's like, oh, all these suspicious things about Wooten, but I'm going to trust him. And then Wellington was the one who was like, here's all these suspicious things about Penny. And Wooten's like, I'm going to trust her. And then she decides to invite Wellington to the wedding, and he's all like blushing fiercely and stuff, and so shocked. He gets all flustered, and it was so cute. And
he's like, Baka.
And then Wooten gives the present to Penny, and Connie's like, "Oh, you made a comic book," and they're both like graphic novel at the same time, and I laughed a lot.
I was like, "That's me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, what were we gonna say? Sorry, I had to get out the thing about Wellington being all like, because it was so adorable. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy he's back.
Me too. I love Wellington. Okay, Wellington is like one of the most minor of minor characters, but he is wonderful. I love him so much. I love any opportunity to learn anything about Wooten's past. I personally think he's the most interesting character to learn more about the backstory of that we've come across in Odyssey. Out of like the main cast. I don't know about you.
I was surprised that Wellington had only been in 3 episodes before this. I was a lot more surprised that Jacques-Henri has only been in 5 episodes before this.
Huh.
Apparently.
I mean, like, he's been mentioned a lot.
Yeah, but and we've had lots of scenes at the art gallery lately, but the last time he appeared was in Happy Hunting. That was album 56.
He appeared in the live show. Didn't he?
Did he appear? I don't know. He didn't.
I don't know.
There was an art gallery in there, but he wasn't in there.
Oh.
Like they went to a museum in the adventure in the Captain Appaloozie adventure.
Oh, okay. I remember what I was saying. Wellington's one of the most minor characters. That's what I was saying, right?
Yes.
But, like, I adore his character so much. And if given the choice between, like, getting more backstory on Wit or someone like that, or getting more backstory on Wooten, I think I'd choose Wooten every time.
I was, at the beginning of this, when I realized, like, oh, this is going to be the episode about Wooten, and I was like, if it actually is, like, because all we knew was, like, well, what's Penny going to think about Wooten when all this evidence starts building up against him? And we knew there's, like, basically 2 possibilities. Either it's something that has nothing to do with Wooten, but it just, it seems like he's connected, like someone frames him or something, or it is something that does tie into Wooten, whether he actually did something wrong or not. And I was like, if it is something that actually relates to something Wooten's done or where he's been or something like that, I was like, I really hope that we find out, like, more about his backstory, like, what brought him to Odyssey in the first place, because that's something I've been waiting for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And a couple episodes ago, I'm not sure what episode it was, I mentioned, like, how my relationship with horrible characters. And by horrible characters, I mean characters that are written really well and they're really interesting, but they're awful people, basically. And Wellington, I feel, falls under that category.
I love him so much more after this episode.
I do too. I love him so much more. Like, every single time he appears, I just love him more and more. And so I'm going to talk about all of Wellington as in a whole character. This episode's going to be really long, so it's just going to be Wellington gushing the entire time. But, like, Wellington is one of those characters where he's an awful person initially, and he still is, don't get me wrong, but he's, like, he's such a dork, and you have to love him, and he's a tool, more or less, for providing more of Wooten's backstory and like fleshing out his family more.
Oh, that's
and
right.
he's so interesting and he's lovable.
You could
and
tell though in
he's
this
awful.
episode, like you could tell he was like, "Oh, we don't want you tarnishing the family name," but you could so hear it in his voice that he's like, "I'm concerned for you, brother." The way he kept referring to him, and the way he would word things, like it was so transparent that it was more like of a personal.
He's like, "It's not like
thing.
I care about you or anything, baka."
Yeah.
So can we go through Wellington's episodes, like, chronologically?
We can.
So in For the Fun of It, he's not in that one very much, but we do get a scene with him and Talia at the beginning. You know that he like really cares about Talia and he wants the best for her and stuff. And Wooten says at the end of the episode, like, he knows what he's doing, he's really smart, like, listen to him and you'll be like really successful in life and stuff.
How old do you think she is now?
I'm not sure. I don't know how old she is in For the Fun of It.
That's true.
Either.
Do you think she's moved out by now?
Probably. I hope she has a horse. I hope she like rode a horse into the sunset.
I'm sure she has a whole stable of horses. She probably owns Australia or something.
And so we get like a couple moments with Wellington throughout that episode, like some concerned phone calls where you can tell even though it seems he's like a little harsh in the first scene, he really, really cares about his daughter and his family. And he's just like, "Are you okay? Like, or is he forcing you to do things? Do you want me to come pick you up and stuff?" Even though he was like messing with her initially and like he took her money and stuff, like he would be there in like a heartbeat if she needed him or something like that. So you can see he really does care about his family. And you also get like the first hint that he might not be as stuck up as he seems when Wooten's talking to Talia at the end. I totally forgot about this. Wellington used to be the water balloon king and he used to fill water balloons and throw them at the servants and blame it on Wooten. And after this episode, I can totally see him getting away with it way better than he would have back then, considering apparently everyone thinks they're the other person.
Yeah.
Do you think Wooten was ever credited with anything that Wellington ever did?
No.
I guess he'd give the credit to Wellington if they thought Wooten did do it.
Yeah.
Which is sad. Even, like, imagine his father being like, "Oh, Wooten, I'm proud of you." And he's like, "Actually, Dad, it was Wellington." And then he's just like, "Go back in the corner." And Wooten's like, "Okay.
Go back in the closet under the stairs."
Yeah, go back. Wait for your letter from Hogwarts.
Yeah, I was gonna say until the one day when, like, you know, Witch shows up at the door all big and gruff with his, like, mustache, and he's like, "You're a comic book artist, Wooten," and then takes him away to Odyssey. That's how he came to Odyssey.
And then there's the line from Potter Puppet Pals where Ron and Harry are on the train, and then he's just like, "Come, sit with me at the table," and Harry's like, "What's a table? I've never seen one of those before."
That's Wooten's childhood, yeah.
Yeah.
After that line a couple episodes ago in 59 at Dinner Role Models, it was like, my dad didn't want me to know where he lived when I was 4, and everyone's like,
And there's like an awkward cough from David. And,
yeah.
So next episode we got was, also at the end of For the Fun of It, when Talia was just like, "Want to play some polo?" And he's like surprised, but he's like, "Yeah, okay." Like, you can tell, like, he's kind of confused, but he's in for it. Like, he'll do it if she wants to.
So I just realized this now means that in 50% of Wellington's episodes, he's accused one of Wooten's close friends of being a gold digger. Because he did the same thing to Bernard in Bassett. Yeah. This is basically the whole thing there.
He's just a very suspicious person, basically.
Bernard was the only person...
I feel like his dad didn't help him growing up. He's like, "Wellington, trust no one.
Especially not your brother."
Yeah.
I mean,
like Gravity Falls.
Bernard was the only person in that mansion who wasn't, you know, there to make a quick fortune.
Yeah. I love the butler. What's his name? It's ironic I can't remember it.
Because you just listened to the episode today?
Yeah. Bradford.
Yes.
I like Bradford a lot. Too bad he wasn't in this episode. So then we get Bassett Hounds right after that. That's still an amazing title. I love that title.
That's great.
It's clever. It's very clever. So we get Wellington moments scattered throughout the episode. He accuses Bernard of being a gold digger, and he actually threatens him. I really love that part. And he's just like, "Listen to me." He's like, "If you're here, because you're like a gold digger, and he's like, you might just have a fight on your hands, and then it like ends, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love Wellington threatening my favorite characters. You go for it. And yeah, so I just love that scene. He sounds so cool in that scene. He's such a nerd though. And so at a couple points he's like trying to really impress their grandfather. And he's just like, oh yeah, I help charities and stuff. I'm very actively involved. And at the end, you can tell that he likes to talk a lot.
Yeah.
For those of you. Yeah, he talks a lot. I'm one to talk, but literally and figuratively. So at the end of the episode, basically the next noticeable moment with him is when they're listening to the grandfather's recording. So he must be very, very high up in the family because he's the one who talks to everyone and, like, gathers them all.
Well,
and
I mean, like, who else would do it? Because, you know...
Well, I mean, like, we don't know if Wooten's dad has any siblings.
Yeah, I know. But it sounds like most of the cousins are, like, quite distant. It seems like Winston and Wellington and Wooten are, like, the closest people biologically to his grandfather, and Winston wasn't there.
Yeah. So Wellington gathers everyone, and then he finds out he doesn't get any money, and he's like, is he out of his mind? And then the grandfather's like, and no, I'm not out of my mind. And I love that line. I bet he was thinking of Wellington when he said that part. And then that's basically all we hear from the rest of the episode. Next one with Wellington is Nothing But the Half-Truth, which was my favorite Wellington episode until the one we just got. So, in this one, we get Wellington impersonating Wooten impersonating Wellington. Which is, I mean,
basically the prerequisite classic trope for identical twins, right? You need the episode where they switch places and pretend to be someone else.
Yeah. And then, actually, I think they're the only identical twins we have in the show.
No, because we've had this discussion before. There was also Thor and Douglas in Blessings in Disguise.
Oh,
and there was also Jessica and Janelle from the Mulligan family.
Oh, yeah. So we also get
and Horace and Grover
doing the chicken dance,
Horace and Grover
which is
McAllister.
Incredible. What?
Horace and Grover McAllister.
Yeah. We get Wellington doing the chicken dance, which is an amazing scene, and everyone needs to hear it if they've never heard it before. We get Wellington
First you stick your thumbs in your armpits, and
like
then you just
this.
kind of
Bark like a chicken.
Wave your arms about.
And then he's like, hey, you're not doing it. And then they're like, I'm trying. He's like, bark, bark, bark. And then he's just like, I'm having so much fun. And then everyone's cheering. And yeah, he's amazing. I love his voice actor so much. And so we also get Wellington depending on Wooten, which is not something we'd really seen before this episode. So we get him, like, asking Wooten and actually, like, pleading with him at a couple points. He's like, please, you have to do this for me. And it's like, I really, really need you to. And then them kind of, like, making deals with each other. And you can kind of see their dynamic more in this episode than the ones previous to it. So I think this one's more, like, I don't know, it shows Wellington in a different light that we hadn't seen him before.
Yeah, it's definitely the most concerned he's been about Wooten before. And now going back and looking through his character, like, you can see just how much... I think it opens a lot of insight into what their relationship is.
And then we get this episode, and we get so much more insight on Wellington, and it was wonderful. And we actually get to see, like, we've seen him caring about Talia before, but we've never really seen him caring about Wooten, and I still haven't completely decided whether I think he does or doesn't care about Wooten.
Oh,
and my
Blackbird.
answer is...
Duh.
What?
Identical twins, the Blackbirds. We talked about them multiple times in this episode. I forgot about it.
So my answer for does he care about Wooten is yes, but he's not good at expressing it or showing it, and he's not a very open person with his emotions. And I also suspect that he's an introvert and not very good. He's very socially awkward, too. So,
Well, I mean,
if
it
you
depends on
cannot
the
tell
situation.
from the aforementioned chicken scene.
I'm
What?
sure when he's in a business meeting, he's
Oh, yeah.
a lion, a tiger, name any,
He's a
large
rock.
feline you can name. That's your father, Wellington.
Yeah, I mean, like, if he has a goal in mind, he knows how to accomplish it, and he's a very driven person. Like, he is just, like, straight on. He knows what to do. He knows how to get it. He's very intelligent. And if you go to Bassett Hounds, you can tell, like, when he should have been having a heart-to-heart with his grandpa, he made it more like a business proposal. He's like, as you see, I've been very active in charities as of late.
As you can see from this pie chart I've made, I am 97% good to give money to.
Yeah, basically. And then in this one, we get to see another side to him. We've never seen it. It's so nice. And so we get to see him. I think even though he was worried about the whole fortune thing, however that plays in, I don't know if that's just a mistake or whatever. I didn't think about it until you mentioned it.
I don't know. Because I thought about that before it was even brought up. Because I was like, I was trying to figure out why he'd be concerned. I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Because Wooten's made that abundantly clear several times. And his father even said that at the end of Wooing Wooten. Yeah. He's like, this could have been your chance to get yourself back in the will.
And I think that he is slightly concerned about that, but I think he's mostly just using it as an excuse.
I think so.
So, like, you can tell that he's very business savvy, but, like, in emotional confrontations, he sucks at those so much. And, like, he's very socially awkward. So, like, with the chicken scene, and then, like, with this, and he's just like, oh, Wooten, he, like, almost drops his phone. He's like, no, I gotta be cool. And he turns over, he's like, hello, brother. And basically, and I'm like, Wellington, you're such a nerd. Stop.
Yeah, he said that.
I could totally see him pretending to be Wooten. He's like, yeah, Wellington has an 8-pack. He's totally ripped. And so...
What do you rate this episode, Victoria?
5 out of 5 stars. I can't in good conscience rate it anything less because they had my precious Wellington come back. And
I think I'm going to have to give 5 out of 5 as well.
Yay! It was so good.
It was really good.
Plus, I'm still not completely sure how I feel about Penny and Wooten's relationship. Because, like, they're adorable. Putin? Shut up. They're one of the cutest relationships in this show, in my opinion. But I feel like it still kind of bothers me that there wasn't too much build-up to it. All the buildup was very one-sided, and even though we got a lot of stuff with them, like, friendship-wise, I feel like there could have been more of a buildup to, like, their romantic relationship. Because when Penny said yes, she'd never thought of Wooten romantically up to that point, as far as we know.
But she didn't say yes. Like, she said, what? I need to figure it out over the course of an entire album.
And so then, yeah, it was kind of... still a little bit sudden in my opinion.
Well, it was kind of both, right? I mean, they addressed that in First Things First. Wade and Connie are talking to each other and about how it was simultaneously very sudden, but also, like, finally it's been a long time coming because of the nature of the relationship.
It was sudden on one person's side and then not on the other person's. But yeah, I really love their relationship. I love how their trust has built from the past album. Because if this kind of stuff happened with the past...
Yeah, this has been 6
in the
episodes
last album,
before.
And there was, like, all this stuff against Wooten, I think Penny would have, like, been really suspicious. But now that they've moved past all of that, she was ready. She was at a point where she was just like, no, I trust him. I'm gonna believe in the best.
Yeah.
And know that he knows what he's doing, basically.
This shows,
and
like,
that was really nice
this goes to show, like, all the character development that she got out of 59, that when she heard it, she's like, no, I trust Wooten, and I know that whatever he is doing... there's a reason for it that is good because he loves me.
Yeah, and I need more of Penny and Wellington bro TP moments because Wellington acts all high and mighty, but he's actually the biggest nerd ever. And he's, like, all soft and mushy on the inside because as soon as she's just like, I now have a headcanon that Wellington's, like, a hopeless romantic, whether he likes to tell people about it or not, because when he mentioned wedding, he had, like, little sparkles in his eyes, and he's just like, a wedding, oh my gosh, and she's like, you want to come? And he's like, do I? And he starts, like, picking out dress patterns with her, basically.
Yeah, he's gonna go over to Hell's Diner with Connie, and they're gonna keep on picking out music. Wellington's like, I think the toccata and fugue in D minor is an excellent idea.
He's like, I love that song.
I play it in my office during every business meeting.
I just feel like it gives me a certain ambiance that strikes fear in the hearts of everyone who knows me and is my competitors.
So, yeah, 5 out of 5 for me.
Such a good episode.
And so, next episode is The Case of the Ball Cap Hero. Yippee, I'm sure it is going to be just as amazing as this one was.
Don't even joke about that, Devin.
So, hope you're all...
I will say this.
Hope
if
y'all are ready
I
for
like
some...
The Case of the Ball Cap Hero, I will be surprised and, yeah.
Hope y'all are ready for some Parker and Jones Detective Agency.
It's been so long since we've gotten one.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
So let's head over there right now. And we're back now with 2/3. Well, after this will be 2/3 of the way through album 60.
It was so fast.
I know, they grow up so fast these days. The Case of the Ball Cap Hero, episode 786, written by Bob Hoose. What happens in this one, Victoria?
In this episode, there's a mystery, and there's like there's this thief, and he keeps on like robbing these places, but he steals merchandise, and then it gets like taken back or something like that. And then there's like this trust fund because things happen, and it's really complex. This is already the worst description in the world, I don't completely understand it. You summarize it, because I couldn't completely understand the episode.
Seemed pretty straightforward. Matthew and Emily are trying to investigate a series of robberies that have been happening around Odyssey, where someone has been robbing stores of merchandise, but every time that he tries to escape from the building, he seems to be thwarted by some ball cap wearing vigilante who takes the merchandise back and leaves it on the sidewalk and then disappears into the night. So they're trying to figure out who he is, what's going on. The
Ball Cap Hero lets it on that he helps because he once lost everything. So people set up a trust fund to give them money anonymously.
Not a trust fund. That's
or whatever.
Very different thing.
Yeah, whatever. Like a donation thing.
Yeah.
And then it turns out the hero and the guy who was the thief were scamming people the entire time. They actually worked together to get money through the donation thing. And it wasn't Buck. I thought it was going to be Buck.
Yeah. So we start the episode off, and Buck was there, and I was like, okay, I'm already feeling better about this episode already.
Yeah,
it was going to be Jones and Parker mystery, so it was already like, they're usually not
I started
very good.
it, and like I was like, okay, I can do this, and I took like a deep breath, and then Emily started talking with like the opening narration, and I was just like,
yeah, and the title doesn't sound that great and stuff.
Yeah, and then Emily's like talking, and I was like messaging Devin. I'm like, I already hate this episode. And then Buck started talking. I'm like, oh, my son, he's here. He's here to save the day. He's here to make things better. The episode was actually better than I thought it would be.
Yes, it was definitely the best. I think it's the best Jones and Parker mystery, in my opinion.
I did not call the ending. I thought it was Buck. I kept on chanting to myself.
I was right about the ending.
It's Buck. It's Buck. I didn't call the ending.
I did. So, at first, it seemed... I'm not sure. It almost sounded like Buck hired Emily and Matthew to investigate Dion's past, or at least they were talking about his things in the newspaper, and they were kind of telling Buck about it.
Oh, I thought they were saying that he was currently in the newspaper, and I was just like, Buck, keep your bestie out of trouble.
Maybe that's what they meant. I thought at first, because they're talking about investigating stuff, I thought that maybe, like, Buck had asked them to look into Dion's past, and, like...
No, I think it's Dion's, like, currently in trouble. Like, I was thinking, like, okay, so Buck saves your sorry butt from getting arrested at McAllister, at Trickle Lake or whatever.
It was McAllister Park. Why would they go to Trickle Lake?
Or it was
the duck pond.
Oh, yeah, the duck pond.
At McAllister Park.
Yeah, it was McAllister Park. And then you get arrested or whatever right after. Good job. Good job, Dion.
So they talk about the Green Ring conspiracy a little more, and
they make Buck feel very uncomfortable and make me feel uncomfortable.
Who doesn't make Buck feel uncomfortable? Because nobody can not ever talk about his past around him.
Yeah. Do you think anyone's like... Do you think there's that one nice person who just doesn't knows it makes him feel awkward and doesn't talk about it, and he's just like, thank you.
Well, hopefully that's Eugene and Katrina.
Yeah, that's what I like to think.
So, Emily has a heart murmur for Buck still. She should really get that checked out.
I totally forgot that there was a thing between them. I was just so uninterested.
When they started talking, and then she's kind of getting a little flustered, I was like, oh yeah, that was like this whole thing way back then. But
like,
Emily,
oh yeah, that was a thing like
but
6
Emily,
albums ago.
Yeah, Emily hasn't appeared in so long. When I was adding this episode to my Emily playlist, I realized that she's never been in the OAC before, for one thing, as of this recording, which covers the first 24 episodes, like the first 2014 and 2015 episodes of the OAC. She's never appeared in it once. So
I was commenting to myself when I started it how happy I was that she was gone for such a long time, but then she showed up again.
But it was a good episode.
She came back. She's like that darn cat that came back the next day, except for she came back 8 albums later.
She was all through the Ties That Bind, but okay.
Whatever. Was she?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
She was in like 6 episodes of the Ties That Bind.
I don't remember that.
Anyways, so we got the craziest callback.
Oh right, there's that stupid thing with like the zombies, the lesbian zombies.
Yeah.
Like,
we got the craziest callback to way back when that blew my mind.
I called it!
No.
Or are you talking about the other one?
That's not a long callback. It's only been like 10 albums since Mr. Jenkins showed up.
I called it, though. You didn't.
I'm talking about a mention of Casey's Convenient Super Shop, which I was like, what? For those who don't remember, in Bernard's very first episode, back in the premiere for album 8, by any other name. What?
I said the same thing you did.
For album 8, by any other name, Bernard was talking to Whit about how Phil Phillips was getting all these businesses in town to change their names, and he's like, Mr. Casey's Corner Market? And it's like, yeah, he's now calling it Casey's Convenient Super Shop. And he's like, did Mr. Casey change anything inside the store? He's like, no, he just changed the name. And this is the first time since then, since album 8, it's been 52 albums since there's been a mention of Casey's Convenient Super Shop. So that was a cool callback.
If you go back a couple episodes, I can't remember if it was before or after, I totally called the Wellington thing. I also mentioned when Devin and I were talking about how crazy it would be if certain random characters appeared.
In the predictions for album
predicted Mr. Jenkins would appear. And guess what? He did appear in this episode. And Devin didn't realize it until I mentioned it, and then he started freaking out.
Well, I realized, to clarify, because you're bad at wording things,
Whatever.
I realized Mr. Jenkins appeared. I didn't realize that you had predicted that in the album 60 predictions.
I did.
So here's the pictures of the Skype conversation when I realized that that's something funny. Victoria had predicted. Another joke prediction that she made that came true.
I predicted almost everything in this album. And they've been the most obscure things. Except for I still don't think the Penny and Wooten being with her family already was obscure.
No, it wasn't.
But Wellington and Mr. Jenkins. So Devin and I agreed that the prediction contest thing we have between us, I won that forever and ever. No matter what happens now, I'm still the winner.
So, let me just check.
Bow down to
pulling up my place thing. So, yeah, Mr. Jenkins appeared again, which makes sense because this episode was written by Bob Hoose, who plays Mr. Jenkins. So, that good old self-insert thing.
Self-insert OC, Mr. Jenkins.
Yeah. Mr. Jenkins has appeared. This is the 5th episode in which he's appeared. He first appeared in album 9 in Cousin Albert. And then it was a long time. He was gone for 29 albums after that. And then he appeared in The Unraveling during Novacom with the birdhouses and stuff like that. He was in Switch in album 46 when the Washingtons were buying stuff from him.
If it weren't for the Switch commentary, I would never remember who he was, honestly.
And he was in Run of the Mill Miracle, which we recently reviewed and talked about him in there. When Christy was buying stuff from him before she got the call about the carbon monoxide poisoning. And now this is his 5th episode, Case of the Ball Cap Hero.
Mr. Jenkins is so nice. I really like him.
So, as soon as they're like, oh, there's some mysterious vigilante who's going, and I was like, please let this not be so predictable that Buck is being a vigilante and
I thought
stopping
it was
crimes
Buck.
at night.
And they're like, who could it be? And then halfway through, actually, by the time they already, like, talked to, like, the guy who sounded like PJ and they came back, I'm like, okay, the episode has to almost be over now. Like, end this torture. And I looked at iTunes. It's like 8 minutes out of 24. And I was like, no!
Yeah, I was really worried it was going to be as predictable as that Buck was going to be the vigilante. I was like, well, the episode started with him talking about, like, I just want to help people now and stuff. And I was like, unless
I was listening, and I was like, Buck wasn't there pointlessly. In situations like this, it always comes full circle. He has to be there for some reason. That scene wasn't pointless. There has to be some reason. So in my mind, he had to be the vigilante because it had to be explained why he was there in the first place.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that scene wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And so I was like, unless this is because Buck restarted the Israelites with Team Vance, which I've been calling for a while now. I was like, if that's the reason and they're the ones who are stopping this, then I'm totally fine with it.
Considering how many callbacks we had, like, if you said that a couple albums ago, I'd be like, no, that's not possible. Now, considering how many callbacks we've had, I'll believe anything's possible. We have more callbacks now than we did before the hiatus. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the clerk of the store, I thought that he was PJ at first. I got really excited, but he wasn't. I thought maybe he was, but his voice just sounds a little different because it's been a while since we've heard him, but I listened to the... AIOO Wiki server is down right now, so I couldn't check that, but I listened to the credits to see if the actor who plays him was there. And
stands for punctual and...
Yeah, jurisprudence.
Yeah. What?
Peanut butter and jelly. Yeah,
what were
I was
the
also...
other abbreviations that he had?
I was also like, if he was PJ, then there would have to be at least one instance of that. Of PJ now stands for... I was going to say preparing for jurisprudence would work, which might work in this episode just as well as it did in Bodyguards. He got us
I forgot he was in Bodyguards.
He got us
right, yeah, he was with Crime Brian Dern.
Yeah. Got a shout out to Comic Connellsville. And I was like, so we have a guy who's stealing stuff while he's wearing a kabuki mask, and now there's some kids who are trying to catch him.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
Hero
stop
6?
ripping off the plot of Big Hero 6. And they're like, there's a kid who is, like, there was this hero who was out there. And I was like, it was literally Hero with an I.
Yeah.
Not with an E.
The case of the ball cap Hero, Hiro. So, yeah, there was a lot of both new stores mentioned in this episode and old store callbacks, because we got callbacks to Casey's Convenient Super Shop and Jenkins Market. We also learned about 2 new stores in Odyssey, Wilbur's Deli, as well as the no longer a store in Odyssey, Grembley's Clothiers.
Thank God Hell's Diner wasn't burgled. What would we do without it? We might have to go to Wit's End.
Yeah, so I was
Why would we want to go to Wit's End when we can go to Hell's Diner? It's so much better.
As an Odyssey geography enthusiast, I was really excited about, like, all these shout-outs and, like, new learnings about things and stuff like that.
I can just imagine you have, like, this map on your wall in your room, and it's just, like, all the names of the different places connected with, like, red thread to like, different characters. And you're like... I'm gonna find out where everything is geographically. That's
basically it. I mean, I have a sticky note on my desktop that I just add things to about locations, like when I'm listening to stuff. That's not just shops, but like adding like locationary information and the episode it's from. Like in A Christmas Conundrum, we learned that there's a thrift store on 1st Street. Or we know that Sam Johnson lives on Maple Avenue, but Eugene and Katrina live on Maple Street. Mike Fulton lived on Harper Street and went to the same elementary school.
Okay, if you read the entire thing, it's going to take us 10 years.
Yeah. But...
You're very detailed.
Yes.
So it wasn't Buck. It was Hero with an I.
It was... Where was I? Oh, yeah,
Pension to change the name of the episode to Hero with an I.
I started to get really suspicious about things because I was thinking about it. I was like, this seems really weird. And right after I started thinking this, Emily started saying the same thing. I'm like, I actually agree with her for once, because it seems all too perfect. I was like, it almost seems like a setup, especially because the weird things that got stolen. Because if you stole the money from the register like a normal thief, then if there was some kind of collaboration between the thief and the hero, that the hero was like orchestrating these thefts so they could be a hero, then you wouldn't want to steal money, like, which would make sense if it wasn't set up, because you couldn't leave money on the sidewalk and expect it to be like recollected without being taken or blown away. But if you stole merchandise, you'd be able to put it on the sidewalk. I'm like, it almost makes it seem like the thief and the ball cap hero were working together, like some kind of setup. Yes?
Pension to change the title to Playing the Predictable 2.0.
Yeah.
It was basically Playing the Predictable all over again, but it actually had more of an arc, in my opinion, than the bank arc. This one felt a lot more like a mystery than the bank one did.
Yeah. Well, it was more of a mystery because we actually got, like, clues and stuff and,
Well, I mean, the bank one tried to play itself off as a mystery, but it was just
too straightforward.
Yeah, it was too straightforward. There are no, like, plot twists or anything.
Yeah. So, the second time that a robbery happened, Matthew and Emily were present, so we heard the thief's voice, and I was like, well, it doesn't sound familiar, so that rules out, like, it's not Vance or Buck or Dion or Jay or Richard Maxwell or anyone else that we could come up with that we already
Richard
know.
Maxwell. Can you imagine if he came back just for this episode, then he left again?
That'd be amazing.
He has his squirt gun that he's using to, like, rob the stores, and...
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so it's not someone that we know, so that's interesting. So we can rule out, like, the usual suspects. I thought it was very sweet of the townspeople to set up a GoFundMe or whatever they did to help the hero to raise money for him. I was like, given, of course, that he's not setting up some kind of scam with the Kabuki guy in order to get money from it, because I called everything in this episode.
I started questioning it a little bit, whether it was Jay or not, or not Jay, whether it was Buck or not, when the hero said that he lost everything, and I'm like, okay, I don't think Buck would take credit for it or, like, talk to people if he did something like this. He would just do it to be Buck. He would just do it to be nice. And so when he said, like, and he lost everything, so now they're doing, like, a donation thing, I was thinking, like, Buck wouldn't take their money. That doesn't really seem like him. And also then, like, the words, like, lost everything, I'm like, well, he did, but I don't really think this seems very much like him. So that was the part, I think, where I started questioning it a little bit. But then they talked to Buck, and I was like, okay, maybe it was Buck. And then Buck's like, it wasn't me. And I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on anymore. And then when they found out, like, Matthew's like, you're never going to guess who that guy is. And Emily's like, who? And he's like, you'll never guess. That part was a little bit too drawn out. It was realistic, but it was a little bit too drawn out.
Yeah.
And then Buck or Matthew said, like, the guy's name. And then I was just like, oh! And Emily was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, who is that? I don't remember.
For a second I was like, and then I was like, oh, of course, that guy. Because they talked about Grumpy's
like,
Clothiers.
who is that? And then they, like, started talking to him. I'm like, have we met this guy before? I don't remember him. So.
I knew who it was when they said it, like, after a millisecond of processing.
Yeah. I'm just really bad with names.
Yeah, well, I'd already typed it out, because the first time they said clothiers, I thought they said glove-ears, like a place where you'd buy gloves, and so I was trying to look it up to figure out if that was a word or how they spelt it, and then the second time they said it, I realized it was clothiers. And so the typing of Grembly multiple times in my notes and on the list of locations is probably the reason that I recognized the name immediately when they said him. It's funny.
Maybe if it was someone we already knew. Maybe if it was Mr. Jenkins that was the thief.
That would be a twist. How insert the picture again? How can I trust myself when you can't?
Yeah.
But anyways, it's funny because of the fact that obviously Arthur Grumley, they thought he was the ball cap hero when he was actually the thief, because technically he was both, because the former didn't exist. And even though they were investigating him because they thought he was the ball cap hero, I forgot about that during the scene. I thought that they believed he was the thief and that they were accusing him of that when they went to see him. Because his voice sounds like the thief's voice that they heard, and the thief was wearing one of the jackets from his store. And so it wasn't until after the scene they're like, maybe he's not the ball cap hero. And I was like, oh, yeah, sorry. I thought you guys were thinking he was the robber, because obviously he is. And then I was right. He was both of them, and it was all one big scam. And this is I like how, like you said, this is the second mystery where Buck has used his past con expertise and knowledge to help solve the mystery. Just like
Buck is really useful in
unpredictable.
these situations. I've said it in the past, I'll say it again. Buck is one of the best people in the show to have on your side. He's just really, really smart and good at this kind of stuff.
So it was clever for them to have the lady in on the scam, like between the two of them, to encourage people to donate money. Because I can see extrapolating from what Buck said, like with the usual Good Samaritan scam, to this, where you can only get, like, if you knew who the hero was and gave the money directly to him, you could really only do that once, like he does something good once and then you give him some sort of reward. If he did it on a regular basis, then he would be some kind of vigilante / superhero thing. The police would not like that. It would be this whole weird thing. People would be suspicious that he just happened to be there when all these crimes happen, so you could really only get away with that once. But, so in order to do, something that's more prolonged and to continue getting money for it, well, you'd have to keep your identity a secret, which means that you'd need some way to collect it. So you'd need some, like, third-party looking person to collect money to try and give it to him.
But there's only the two of them, right?
Well, yeah, she was the third party. Or, I mean, not technically, but she made herself appear like she was some third party setting up a fund on his behalf.
Did they ever alternate? Like, she was the...
No.
Okay, so it was... Okay.
It was just, he would rob the stuff and put it on the ground and then run away.
And no one else saw?
Because it was at night and it was dark and there was no one there.
Oh, yeah, I guess
that's what happened the first time. He knocked over a garbage can, make it look like a struggle. The second time, she was out there, but she was there on purpose because she was in on the scam, so she could be like, I saw him, it was him again. And then get people to donate money. So, yeah, I thought that was a really clever idea. And then they also rebutted in a really good way by being like, this is Buck, he's the hero, because obviously, if she's like, it can't be, that's not him, then it's like, oh, how do you know? You're the one who said that she didn't know him, and because obviously she's not going to give the money to Buck, so it was a good way to out her for being part of it. So yeah, it was I thought it was a rather good mystery, even though I predicted the stuff. But I don't think it was...
I'd say it's the best one we've had in a while.
I don't think it was super obvious, like the other...
I didn't find it obvious.
Parker mysteries usually are. Or really cheesy, like some of the other ones are, too. So it was good.
Yeah. So now some bad comments. Know what part I just listened to and it made me want to rip my hair off my scalp?
What?
When Polehouse and Emily were talking to each other... Just that exchange. So at the beginning it wasn't that bad. But then at the end, Polehouse was just like, okay, you're like in elementary school. Like, I'm certified police. I know what I'm doing. Just please stay out of this. And then it cuts to Emily's like stupid dialogue. And she's just like, that's what he said. But what he really meant was he wanted me to get even more involved and probably kidnapped or killed. And I was just like, you idiot. And that part made me so... infuriated. I hated that part.
I was glad that they at least like went to the cops in order to help, like, catch them instead of trying to do that on their own. Because I was like, go to the cops. You actually have actionable proof to try and tie these things together, even if it's only circumstantial.
Yeah, I was glad that they did that, but just like the thing after with Emily made me so angry because I'm like, kid, you don't know how dangerous this guy is. You could get murdered. Just don't
you could end up like
Polehouse
Tadashi.
What?
I said you could end up like Tadashi.
How so?
Burned in a fire for your microbots. Or not, apparently, but whatever.
He's a superhero! Yeah, so I didn't like that part at all. In any way. I was re-listening to the episode and it's just... No, I was face palming so hard, my hand almost went through my head, and I just... No.
So, Victoria, final thoughts on this episode, then?
Better than I thought it would be. Had some things I liked, had some things I did not like. Overall, I think I would give it 3 out of 5.
Yeah, like I said, out of all the Parker Jones mysteries, which are usually like really low on the spectrum for me, this was quite a good one. It was a good mystery. I predicted the end, but it wasn't like incredibly obvious prediction. Like I felt like there was actually a twist to it and enough clues to be able to solve it. It was great to see Buck. Great to see Mr. Jenkins. The callback to Casey's Convenient
I totally
Super
called
Shop.
that 5 stars just for me calling Mr. Jenkins and being no.
So, yeah, it was good, and having Buck like help solve another mystery using his plethora of con job knowledge was it was nice. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5. Yeah, and we'll cut back to Devin and Victoria for the outro, I guess, because they'll know what's going on next time. So, we'll see you around.
Wellington! Wellington!
Man, who'd have thunk it, huh?
I thunk it!
So did I. We
points.
both, at different points, thunk it in advance. Who would have figured that our joke predictions actually came true? Same thing with you and Mr. Jenkins as well. I can't believe it.
I called Mr. Jenkins in Wellington, and wow.
All in the same review.
All in the same review. It's like, I got so many points, you can never hope to beat me. Unless, like, Davey from Wits Flop and Stars in Our Eyes shows up and you call that, I think I've won the prediction game.
Yeah, I think you did that a long time ago. I don't think we have to keep bringing it up, but... Right.
Yeah, I know, but I keep on winning, and you keep on not winning.
Well, I get points too, just not as many as you.
No, I'm
Alright.
I'm winning.
What are we talking about next time, Victoria?
Not Wellington, sadly.
Oh, it might come up somewhere, who knows.
I don't know, hopefully. Oh, right, yeah, we probably will mention Wellington. We are gonna do the last 2 episodes of album 62? 60. There's so many albums now.
Which are, what are the episodes, Victoria?
Between the Lines Part 1 and 2, and we're also gonna do our overall album review.
Yes,
and
for album 62, apparently.
That's it, yeah, for album 62.
Yeah.
Yep. Hopefully you guys have listened to album 62.
Yeah. I hope you've all done your homework in advance.
Yep.
To be fair, I think... Yeah, we do know a little bit about album 62 at this point.
So predictions for album 62, I think Devin thinks that Jules and Buck are gonna elope.
Probably.
Bart Rathbone's gonna be reanimated from the grave.
Yeah. He's not coming back, he's being reanimated.
He's gonna open
whole,
up
like,
Blackguard's castle, where
this, like,
the Electric Palace used to be.
This tribute to Frankenstein's monster and stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be tasteful.
Yeah.
So, that's what we're doing next time. To clarify, what we are doing next time is Between the Lines
Part 1 and 2, album 60 review, album 61 predictions.
No, not the predictions yet. That'll be the episode
never
after.
Mind. Never mind.
There would be a lot to do in one episode, otherwise. We don't do quadruple segment episodes. That would be a nightmare. Our episodes are long enough, thank you very much, without that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that's everything then. Until then, thank you for joining us. Now,
good job.
Do you want to close this out, Victoria?
Thanks, guys. That's Tongue Twister McGee, and I'm wearing plaid. See y'all later.
Goodbye.